there?
I am here. Yes.
All right, so everybody is here. Thank you very much. And I think we confirmed it with Carla, the confirmation that MCB is recording the meeting and is allowing for local recordings, and that recordings will be made available to the public on a going forward basis. Okay, if you could confirm that, please, MCB.
Yep.
All right, I'd like a vote by the SAB to accept both the September 11th and July 30th minutes as amended. May I have a motion?
I so move.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, accepted. Thank you very much. I'd like to welcome any members from the public attending the meeting, as we'll do as we did the last time. We'll entertain questions and comments at the end of the meeting. We'd appreciate any questions or comments that kind of, if it could be limited to what the content of the meeting is and the services that we are addressing, we'd appreciate that. Update from the CFO and MCB financial results, FY22 through August, or I guess in this case would be September. We have not received anything from the commission, though we did request it. Comment, Commissioner?
Yeah, if you want, I can share the dashboard here. Here's the latest numbers. And then additionally, I did go into see-through, and I can show you that if you're interested as well. I don't know if you're interested.
Excuse me. Excuse me. Just a comment. This
Thank
is
you,
Amy. This is Amy. I don't mean to interrupt, but just be aware that when you screen share, blind participants who do not use magnification and cannot see the screen are going to have a very difficult time getting the information that you're screen sharing.
I was about to audio describe
Okay.
all of the cells as I usually do. Do you not want me to do that, or?
No, I'm just saying that it's more difficult to follow if you don't have access to the document.
Yeah, so the cells that we're interested in, we'd appreciate, we got documents this morning where we didn't get this, but we'd really like them 2 or 3 days in advance so that we can have a chance to look at them. You know, Carla sent us a lot of information we haven't had a chance to look at. So in this case, what we're interested in are columns G, year-to-date expenditures, and Q against the FY22 GA.
Okay, so the first column, G2, is the 001 account. That's the administration and program operations account. Is funded at, or year to date, $266,305. And then if you're interested in it against the GAA, it's 1.144454. So there's a delta there of $850,000 or something. So it seems like we're on track to spend that money. The next one is in the 1,000 account, community services for the blind. That G3 is 1.185 million. And then against the GAA, which is 8.9 million. So again, I think we're on track mostly to spend that.
I mean, it appears, if I do the math, David, that you're on track to spend about a little more than half of it through 3 months.
Yeah, that's about right.
That's not being on track. So is there a reason why it's trending behind?
Well, no, I don't What do you mean trending on behind? I think it's just the nature of the cycle of the payments. I think this is right on basically where we need to be.
All right, so you're saying that's right on where we need to be, okay?
I mean, basically, I know none of this is exact, but I mean, we're up to date. We've paid everybody. We're paying everybody. We're in a good position.
Do these numbers reflect payments only, or is it what's been encumbered? Is it what's been billed by vendors and not paid?
No,
This
no,
is
this is actual.
May I make a request that folks that are not speaking mute? We're getting a lot of interference.
Yeah, to my understanding, when they ran this, which was on the afternoon of the 5th, which I believe was 3 days ago or whatever, this was that snapshot as of that moment. So this is money out the door. Column G is money out the door.
All right, it'd be good to have the CFO confirm the accounting for that, but
Okay, the CFO is not available.
I know
So-
she's never available, right? All right, how about the
She's
2000
she's
account?
available for us. She's just not available for this meeting. So the next account, which is the 2000 account, is our deaf blind extended supports account. That's 1.937 million, and that's against 15.32. Now, additionally, I think included in there, and I don't know if John's here. John could correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that includes some Chapter 257 updates.
Joe,
Which-
this is Susan again. Can I make a repeated request that people mute or be muted? We were having a lot of interference.
So David, the 257 payments are being processed. So some of them may not be included in that. I
Got
don't
it.
believe they've all been completed, but they are being processed. So some who have cleared the system may be part of that. Some may not be yet counted.
Thank you, John, for that clarification. And some of those, John, right? Remind me, some of those could be substantial. So I don't know which ones have hit, which ones haven't, but
Yeah, some of them are substantial based on some of the group home providers that we have when they have multiple clients, could be a
Yes.
good chunk of money. But it definitely, we have it, and it's just a matter of getting it processed through the system, and they're moving forward. Max has been working on that for the past week or a couple of weeks or so. So that's why I say some may not be reflected in this, and some may not, because it may not have cleared Mars yet.
right.
The vendors may not have gotten actual payments, and that doesn't reflect in that until the payment is issued. Then it gets reflected that it's out the door.
Thank you. And then the next one is our VR account. That's 235,571 as compared to 2.8 million. So those are the total. So the total year-to-date expenditures is 3.6 million versus the GA, which is 28.2 million.
So just a question. I know that that a lot of stuff is front loaded into the first quarter of the year because of summer programs through VR. Now, I don't know how much flows to the federal account, so much what flows through the state account. But again, it's trending towards spending a third of the FY22 GA. So it appears that
I don't know what you mean by front loaded. We can't pay for services that are not.
I didn't say that. The services are front loaded. There's a lot of services during the summer months.
Right,
My
so the billing-
experience was.
So the billing lags. So by the time those get paid, it's usually like around now.
So I'm just going to make a comment that please send this to us. But doing things on a cash basis is not useful. What I think we're asking to see is what is paid and what is encumbered, so that you get a good sense as to what the commission has provided over the whatever time period we're looking at.
So Joe, what's encumbered would be a lot higher amount than what has been paid.
Yeah,
Obviously, there's a lag.
Sorry, John, sorry to interject. Further, Joe, that's not appropriate. I'm sorry, that's not appropriate. That isn't how it's done. I don't know how you've ever gotten that information before. If you have, please let me know specifically, because we need to report that, because those are executive policy discussions only. If vendors were to get that information, that would be beyond highly inappropriate. That would violate state bidding and ethics and everything else. We can't.
All right,
do
show
that.
me, so cite me where it says that, because I'm not
I'm
asking.
taking the advice of our counsel and our CFO, who have instructed me that, and HHS for that matter. We can't, you want to basically see the daily running like expenditures of everything in MCB. It doesn't work that way.
No, I don't.
That's why
Dave.
we've given you what I have on the screen right now is see-through.
David,
This is what is appropriate to share.
David, I don't want to see anything by vendor. What I want to see is in any financial statement, which we've asked for over a year, is that, and when I was running the Carroll Center, I was certainly told by the two commissioners that I worked under that I was told everybody needs to mute, please. That we were told what was encumbered, so you knew how much money was left to spend. That's all. We're not asking for anything that's proprietary or anything else. But please give to me and who I can talk to about what's appropriate or what's not, because that's not the way it was. But we're kind of getting nowhere here, so we can move on.
What I'm showing you on the screen right now, this is see-through.
Yes.
This is the comptroller's website. This lists all the information that we can divulge, which is basically, it's very similar to what I just showed you. It's just in a slightly different format, and it might have one additional field or two or something. And this is publicly available. Anybody can go get this.
No, I understand that. You told me that see-through was a financial statement. It's not. It's a list of payment to vendors.
Oh, okay. I mean,
It's not useful. You know, if you don't know what the schedule that you show reflects, and the concern of the SAB would be that you're way behind in the spending that's been approved. That's what the schedule shows.
If we
Now,
go to the law,
I'm sorry.
if we go to the law,
All right,
this is an
send me,
advisory
please.
board.
All right.
I'm not like, this isn't an oversight board. What are we doing? Like, we're auditing now? That's what this meeting is about?
David, we're trying to provide assistance to the commission. The only way to provide assistance to the commission is to understand what's going on.
Okay.
That's it.
And so the sheet that we're sharing doesn't explain what's going on. It's complete.
No,
shows
it doesn't.
all of the accounts
It
with all
does.
of the year-to-date spending. What else
It's here.
for?
Okay, fine. I'd like to know, give me a cite on what the law is. Okay, we'll go to the next
We'll
item.
put that request in. I'm not gonna, I
No,
don't know
tell
all
me
that.
who I can talk to. I'd like to understand it.
We'll have
That's all.
Lauren present next time.
All right, next item, MCB review of FY22 through August dashboards, maybe through September for tracking MCB performance. I did see something from Mary this morning. I don't know if that's the dashboard. Susan, did you have a chance to look?
Unfortunately, I didn't have a chance to look. I did see that Mary sent something on.
So I can give you some information on that, Joe, if you'd like.
So John,
Yeah,
let me
please.
just set it up a little bit.
Okay, go ahead, Mary.
So I think we are just about at the quarter ending 9:30, and we will have those dashboards. But before we do that, I just wanted to set up so that John can explain what the cases and the caseloads means. Because when you get the dashboard, you may see that the numbers are higher than what should be. But then if you have this information in advance, when Judy, Susan and I meet and put together a reasonable dashboard for your next meeting, that you will have context. So John, go ahead.
Okay, so from what we sent out this morning is basically the SR caseload, the active caseload that the agency has at this point, and then the target amounts that we are given by that were agreed on by the union and management during contract negotiations years ago. So we gave you basically some numbers that I don't know exactly what you were looking for, but we gave you some numbers that would give you an example of what the active caseload is now. So and then knowing how the number of personnel that we have in each region. So we're pretty much on track and steady with what these numbers should be. So if you wanted to look at some of the numbers, I could explain them to you, but it really, otherwise they're just numbers that sort of allows us to track the combined caseload of several counselors. So what we gave you was the SR. So the SR would include counselors, the social workers and rehab teachers that are working, because some of the rehab teachers are also case managers. So that would be counted in that, along with providing the support services that they provide to those who they don't case manage. And then, so we just show you region by region of what that is. Basically, we are serving all of the requests that are coming in as far as needing services in person. Training is increasing almost every week, where some counselors are going out one day to see people in person, others with 2, and those that they've been expanding them to 2, and some cases 3 days even. So we're almost back to the field schedule that we were at before the pandemic hit. So we don't have any major concern about MCB being able to serve the individuals we have on our SR caseload with the current staff pattern that we have and with the current funding that we have. Certainly the current funding is more than enough to do what we need to do as far as providing rehab supplies. And with the infusion of this extra $800,000, there's going to be more than enough money to provide training from those various vendors that have just awarded that bid. Is there anything more specific that you were looking for on this?
I'm not sure. I guess Joe, if I could ask a couple of questions. When we were creating the dashboard, we were trying to look at those numbers on a monthly basis to just see if there's peaks and valleys of registrants and different variables that I think Mary and I had come up with. In the last conversation, it looked like there may be demand or pent-up demand coming. And part of that was a discussion then of there may be an increase in people coming in and what caseload sizes were. So I'm wondering if what you showed us now is in response to that discussion. I'm wondering where the monthly data is from the dashboard.
So that is, I believe, what you're asking about. That monthly, you took a present day look at that, right, Mary?
Yes, I did.
September's?
Yes, I did as of September 9:30. And I guess one of the information that I didn't take out was like for this month, we have, we'll have a couple of consumers in application and eligibility. So those are new consumers, but they're all just on the caseload. So I guess, redoing the dashboard so that you, Susan, you can get the information that you're looking for the different peaks and values. It's important to understand that, for example, if I have 100, let's look at the children's workers. Somebody has 206. A bunch of them are 0 to 6. You're not really doing anything with the 0 to 6.
Yeah.
So even
mean,
if they're coming, so even if we have a peak there, it's really just INR, just sending out information and just really
Right.
getting them on the caseload.
It's basically a phone conversation with the parent and providing information or resources. So there's a whole difference in the caseload, and you have the breakdown of age there. So that sort of shows you that because there's a high number of younger folks, that doesn't mean there's a high number of visits with them, because those folks, you're dealing with the parents, obviously, and the parents are working. So, and they call you when they can, you reach out, you email you, but there is not a monthly visit or every 2-month visit. Some of these folks, they get visited twice a year. And so although they have a high caseload number, it's not overwhelming to the case workers. Their number is high because they cover the entire region. So it's not like where you look at the social workers where they're covering portions of the region. The children's worker covers the entire region. And again, a lot of that contact with the younger youth is providing resources and information to the parents. And then as they get a little older, it's referring for camps, basically just doing purchase orders and getting those camps paid for, requesting flexible family payments if there's a family unexpected emergency. So there's a lot of, it's not that it requires you to deal with that consumer every week. So you can have a consumer caseload of well over 100. We have the target numbers because the union, we have to agree to something. So therefore, we have to come to an agreement on a number that's reasonable.
Yeah, I think I'm getting confused because we're getting detail on things we didn't ask for,
Okay.
but we're not getting the detail that we wanted. So last time we presented on the monthly incoming, the number of new registrants, that sort of thing.
Mhm.
That's what we're looking for. So I'm just sort of
Okay.
curious, and I know, Mary, you've been out and maybe this is something we can delay until the next time to present, but the detail on the caseload size is not really something we were looking for. We were looking for what's happened on the number of registrants coming in, the number of new cases, similar to what was presented last time, just an update.
Then you want a comparison of registrations over the past 6 months, previous
Monthly
something like that, right?
basis. The dashboard was to create a monthly dashboard. And that the last 2 times we talked about it, it was to be presented to the SAB on a monthly basis. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is data about caseload size by region, which is not something that we were really asking
Okay.
for.
All right, thank
so,
you.
All right, so Susan, so my bad, because I thought maybe we wanted to understand the caseload just to address the pent-up demand issue. But we do have the caseload numbers. So when you and Judy and I get together, that's the information that we're going to put in for the next SAB meeting. No problem. There.
This is Kim.
Sounds
Could I
good.
ask Mary a question or Susan?
Sure.
When I had a chance to take a quick look at the spreadsheet, and I think it was under Children's Services Region 2.
Mhm.
The row was blank. So I was just wondering if it was me or there's nothing in Region 2, which I don't think is true.
We
But
had the caseload amount in Region 2 was 216, but we didn't have in there is the age breakdown, Mary. That was blank on my
Oh,
sheet.
did I forget the red one?
okay,
Yeah.
it just
That was it,
Thank
just the
you.
age breakdown, Kim.
right. Okay, which I mean, I found this useful information and helpful to understand. But I do agree with Susan. I think we are looking for more of a month to month, so we could see trends And I do think it's helpful to see caseload sizes periodically, but I don't know that we need to see them every month. So,
Okay,
thank
All
you.
right,
no problem, noted.
all right, all right,
Yeah.
thank you. So the next is Commissioner's update. The first on the list is the status of the, and really, it's where we stand on the earmark. I know that RFRs went out. I believe the minutes to the last meeting reflected that everything would be wrapped up by September 24th. So perhaps you could talk to us about the results of the RFR process, description of the goods and services to be offered by the vendors. And
You want me to talk about that, David?
I was just gonna say, so John was our project manager here, and he has really most of the detail. I will tell you, though, it went well. It was robust and diverse. John?
Okay. So the RFR did go out, and we had 5 organizations apply for funding. And the amount of funding that was requested exceeded the $850,000. Off the top of my head, it was $1 million, like $1 million, just a little over $1 million, I don't know, a couple 100,000 or something. But so we asked, we thought that all the proposals were well done, that the proposals met specific needs, and the proposals provided coverage in certain parts of the state. So that we thought that it would be great. And we did this not collectively, we did it all individually. We had a meeting to discuss that, but then we rated everybody individually without consultation, and provided the information to the contract manager, which is Max Feldposh. So we awarded a grant to the 5 vendors, and to bring it down, we Max contacted the vendors and asked them if they were amenable to taking a 15% cut on their request, and they all replied that they would be okay with that. So by doing that 15% cut, that allowed all of the vendors to be awarded majority of their grants that they requested, and to be allowed to provide the services that they wanted to bid on. So I guess it's public now. I can tell you the names if you want that. And this is there's people here from the public, but the contracts are just being signed right now. So all the bidders have been notified of the award amount. All the contracts have been sent out to them. I've seen 2 that have come back, 2 or 3 that come back signed, and all the funds have been loaded. So this money will be ready to go out the door by referrals. This Tuesday, I have a meeting with the SR committee, which is basically the staff that are going to be authorizing and referring these individuals to the programs. And we'll provide all the rest of the details to them on how they're to refer folks, what we need from them, and what the vendors are going to need from them, and how to communicate with the vendors to determine what services are going to be provided and if the vendor has capacity. So most of the vendors have staff in place and can get started right away. A couple of the vendors mentioned that they would have to hire an individual or so, and they would begin that process of as soon as they receive the award notification. So which has all happened. So I guess I can say the names of the vendors now. So the vendors were the Mass Association for the Blind and Visually Impaired, Carroll Center for the Blind, the Polis Center, New England Low Vision, and the Lowell Association for the Blind. And we look forward to start moving referrals to them. All the services that are normally provided by these vendors were on this RFR response. So some of that money will be used to support adaptive technology training. Some of the services, they'll be using it to provide support to recreation or more socialization programs for seniors, or older folks in SR, or anyone in SR actually. One of them is going to be providing a theater camp. I'm assuming that's going to be for the SR children under 14 or teenagers, that sort of demographic. There's a tremendous variety of services. There's again, substantial amount of computer training. I think 4 out of the 5 vendors, yes, 4 out of the 5 vendors would be providing some kind of computer training, and all of the vendors will be providing, majority of the vendors will be providing some kind of independent living training. Only one will be providing the services at a residential setting, along with community and virtual. But and all the others will be providing it virtually and in community. I think Lowell Association will have some of the events happening at their building, so that's more of a community setting without the residential component, obviously.
That's good, thanks. John, question is, so I would assume that the vast majority of the people that are going to be receiving these services are seniors.
A good number, but there's some consumers who have secondary issues that are, say, in their 40s. Yeah, we're not VR, but the Carroll Center, I'm sure, will be able to work with them and give them a much longer independent living program than what was commonly available.
So if there are people, I guess my question is, there may be people that you'd like to get these services or devices, but they're going to need some independent living skills as well to be able to adapt. So how you've structured this addresses this?
Yeah, how the vendors will structure depending on the capacity they have. Let's say if we have a client who's say 40s and needs independent living, but also needs computer training and needs some equipment. So therefore, the vendor that can provide that would be the one that handles that training. If the person wants residential training, is able to stay residential, obviously there's only one that can offer that service. But if another vendor, if they're able to offer those independent living services on a day type program where person comes once a week, twice a week, and works on different skill sets or different skill training aspects, then they can work it out that way too. We're basically going to give the 5 vendors to the consumers, to the counselors. We're going to tell them to inform their consumers of what services they are able to provide. And the consumer will make the choice on which vendor they would like to use. And they may want to receive one service from one vendor and take another service from a different vendor. So that will be sort of driven by the consumer choice, consumer demand. You know, if it's something that's easier to commute to for them, they may be able to want one vendor over another. Might be closer to them as far as commuting goes. So we're pretty much going to let the consumers choose the vendor that works for them the best.
All right, that's good. And you think you'll be able to spend the money, John?
Well, it all depends. The money is in place. It all depends on the staffing pattern of the vendors. Are they able to accommodate? How many referrals can they take? How many people can they work with? I mean, again, are some going to work Saturdays, offer services on the weekends? It depends on, it really is up to the vendor. They know the amount of money they have, that their award was, and they have the next 8.5 months or so to do their best they can. We're going to, they can reach out to consumers that they know of, or if consumers walk in and want to take services there. If they're not active, they're going to be instructed to refer folks back to MCB. We get their case activated, which is very quick on the SR side. It's quick on both sides, VR and SR, but it can move quickly, and we'll get that person in place as soon as possible. So,
all right, good. Anyone else from the SAB?
Yeah, it's Amy. I have a question. Understandably, when COVID happened, there are people who, you couldn't visit because of COVID, et cetera. What about those consumers whose cases are not active with your
So,
counselors?
yeah,
How are
so
they going to be notified
so any
that
consumer,
these services are available?
okay, so any consumer can take these services. We don't have a mechanism now to reach out, but we could. We could say that cases that were closed in the past year, we would drop them a phone call or an email or send them something. We'll post it online. So that could be something that's, but if a lot of the vendors know a lot of individuals and have access to their names and information, that would be a collaborative effort that if any of the vendors are willing to reach out. I know some have already, because some of our counselors have received phone calls already and saying, when can I get those services? And they've been collecting that information. So that's what we hope will happen. We have 8.5 months to work here. So once we see the referral flow begin and we start moving folks into the vendors, if things look slow, like there's not a lot of consumers waiting in our active queue, obviously we can reach out directly, or again, the agencies can reach out to any consumers that's on their databases. The agencies can send letters to consumers that they have on their system that they've provided services for in the past. So I think collectively, if we pull together, we should be able to get enough of a consumer flow in there to utilize substantial funds. But all this, it depends on the staffing. A lot of these things take time. And as we saw with the earmark, scheduling becomes an issue with some of the consumers, as far as they can't do multiple days, or they can only do scattered days, or they don't have the ability to go on a weekly basis. So a lot of these things have to be worked out, and the scheduling is all going to be handled by the vendors. MCB will just make the referral, and as far as scheduling and doing intakes and all that information, providing the training, is going to be up to the vendor. Once we make the referral, we have a purchase order in place, and that consumer is available to attend the program.
I mean, the idea of
I
doing
understand all of that, John, and I appreciate what you're saying. I think I do need to comment, though, that from my significant experience with a lot of older adults, many of them would not know who to contact at the commission or how to contact them at the commission.
So we can work on developing an outreach plan here at MCB.
Yeah, I would
focused
encourage that.
on getting the RFR in place and out the door and getting the money in place. I think we'll have a good push to get the kickoff with a lot of referrals going out, but we'll develop an outreach plan here at MCB for us to direct the staff on what to do as far as these cases that we've served over the past 1.5 years or so that may be closed and might need some more contact from us.
Yeah, that would be great. I would appreciate an update at the next SAB meeting on that process. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Kim, Susan? Anything on this topic?
No questions from me. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thanks a lot, John. That's good.
Yep.
Next item, update on supplementing consumer services, including client meetings, holding and disbursement in inventory, mail, and staff space in the Worcester and New Bedford offices with the absence of those offices.
We're working on all these things right now. They've been bargained. They're in the MOU. We've been going back and forth on interpretation. We've gotten them additional resources like postage machine, postage printer, postage supplies, and things like that, shelving units. So that's just in process.
All right, how about the issue of since you don't have inventory storage anymore in New Bedford and Worcester,
So we do.
You do.
Yeah, we have
So
some
let me-
limited space, but a lot of that is encouraged to being, we've changed our processes, or I shouldn't change, we've enhanced our processes to have as much direct ship as is reasonably feasible to the consumer.
Right, but there's been some cabinets that have been provided to New Bedford, and those are in the process of being set up. As a matter of fact, they're in the Boston office today, David.
Yes,
So we'll get those out to the region next week. I was just arranging for a driver to do that next week. Get those set up. There'll be capacity in those to do that. We also altered how we order. They're placing orders quarterly, so that we have the chance to manage the inventory and see what's running low and order that sort of thing. So the RT supervisors have been doing a great job with that. There's been no issue as far as space or anything like that. This way it's giving the individuals a chance to deliver items directly, but also in those cases that shipping is still being used for some situations. So I think we've got a good mix, and folks are receiving the supplies they're looking for at this point.
And you said that you bargained with the union. So is that all set now?
yes.
All smooth in your view?
I think so. I mean, it depends probably on who you talk to. There's maybe one or two members that want more. They want to turn a touchdown space into a full-blown office. And that wasn't the plan. That wasn't in the agreement. So that's really what we've been going back and forth on, but.
Okay. Amy, Kim, Susan?
No questions for me.
I'm good, thanks.
Nope, I understand.
Okay, thank you very much. Next topic, status of the award. There's been a new reallotment award. I guess it's that time of year where reallotment funds are made available.
Yeah, so we just heard from RSA this week that we got approved on all of our scopes. So now we can put RFRs together and put those out and things like that. And that's what we're endeavoring to do.
What are those scopes?
I don't think that's appropriate to discuss right now because we haven't put those out. Those will have to go out for public bid. But they're all VR related. Many of them are related to things that we've done previously. So generally I can tell you, like, some of them are for some marketing types of things. Some of them are for, there's like a study, and then another one is I think like a guide or something. So
I mean, we're not asking for, for a deep dark secret, but if you're going to put out RFRs,
when the RFR is out, I can discuss it. I've been advised that prior to the RFR going out, I shouldn't go into much detail because there could be somebody on this call that then gets an advantage over somebody who isn't.
Okay. How much are the reallotment funds this year?
John, what did we ask for? Mary,
1.3. I think we got 1.3.
and we got it all, I think, right?
1.3 million, yeah.
Yeah. RSA, if you followed the circular, RSA has more money than they know what to do with. Matter of fact, they have an excess. So I think pretty much all the agencies that applied got what they asked for.
Yeah, I mean, it's stunning the amount of money that states give back.
Oh, it's outrageous.
It's outrageous. It really, you
Well,
can't believe it.
from year to year, right. But with COVID, that changed things. Like, we usually never, we've done a great job historically. If you look at the historical with MCB has done a great job of that. But with COVID, with everything closed, I think all states had a challenging time.
Yeah, but I'm talking about, David, historically, it's the same states over and over again that are giving up substantial sums of money, which then come back to benefit, the have states, so it's not just COVID. It's a historical thing.
They were not even able to give out all the money, Dave. I think there was even $100 million that went back that's not being used.
Yeah.
The secondary agencies were not able to take that money.
I think it's more than
left
that.
them 100 million.
Yeah.
Yeah, and those go into the Disability Innovation Fund that fund model demonstrations.
Yeah. So if you want an update on that, while Susan mentioned it, we can give you an update that MRC, who's the lead agency there, but we're partnering. We have a small piece of the grant that they just got awarded. So we'll be collaborating with them on that.
It was a big number, wasn't it, David?
It is. I think the thing though that makes it seem even larger is, remember, it's over 5 years. So
Yeah.
they give you 5 years worth as part of the award. But Mary, do you remember the number? It's like tens
40?
of millions of dollars.
It's like
I
40
heard
million.
it was like 15, 16 million bucks.
It's
Yeah.
a lot
16
of money.
million, yeah, it's 16
A
million.
lot of money. It's a lot of money. So, and we just have a small piece of that.
It's interesting. Why?
I mean, we could have got more, but we were debating, do we even want to do these realignment projects? Because our challenge now is spending all the money.
Okay. Anything from the group? All right, next, status of disbursement of current year blindness certificates. I guess we've heard a couple of things that there's a little bit of trouble getting them out on a timely basis. And I guess some consumers are struggling with getting a certificate as opposed to getting a triplicate.
So Joe, I can speak to that. So I know you guys have had all this time that we've sent out 24,000 to all the consumers 18 years plus. I counted the ones that came back. We have about 5,000-ish. And then we've resent about 3,200. And yesterday on the town hall call, I appealed to our consumers that if you're not currently open, so you're not in touch with MCB on with your case open, we do not have your current address on file, because the only address we have on file is the one we got from your I report, and could have been a while ago, and things happen.
Right.
So that is exactly what happened. Most of the folks that are calling and requesting a certificate are the same folks that we have some of their certificates that came back in the office. So now they're giving us new addresses, and we're sending them. Triplicates. So for us to be able to send out the 24,000, we actually had to redo the process so that we can mass print them and mass mail. And so you get one certificate, but that certificate, you can duplicate it if you can. I understand some people are not able to make copies, but that is able to be duplicated. And we have some folks who've called, and we've sent them more copies. The triplicate one is really, you have to go into the consumer file, really manual, and then crank it out and print it out and send it out. So we're trying to phase that as we go forward. But I mean, we always do what the consumer asks. And so if somebody is calling and they need that certificate, the in triplicate, we'll print it out for them as well. But right now,
Joe, they could they could get the same thing if they, again, copied what we send them. If we send an email to them, they could just email that or print it out 3 times. That would be the same, similar.
Yeah.
Just to get the triplicate. It's a whole different process internally to get that triplicate copy produced and sent out on those little special papers that we have, and a special printer. It's a whole different process than what we're doing now. It's much more manual and requires much more attention by someone doing it.
Why did you change the process of going from triplicate to streamline?
We didn't change that. We still have the triplicate. What we did was we proactively decided to mail everybody one, knowing that we were going to get a rush. So just to be clear to the public, none of this is a bad thing. For the small amount of people that have either called with a question or have had a challenge. There have been some challenges. Remember, the large majority of people we averted because we gave them this information ahead of time so that they could use it to file their real estate tax abatement, their excise tax abatement, or for some other reason that they need the certificate of blindness.
And just so to add, Joe, we've had some instances where consumers really it's taken a while to get their certificate, and we do have a hotline where folks call, and some of them, yeah, they don't get their call back, but you will get a call. This is Mary. I need my certificate. Mary who? Mary Smith? Mary, so it's kind of hard, but we're working with consumers as we go. And I, in the last month, the calls have dissipated tremendously. So we're working on it as we go along.
All right, thank you. Amy, Kim, Susan?
Yeah, this is Amy. I'm still getting requests from people and notifications that they haven't got a call back or they haven't gotten their certificate. And just a comment, I know a couple of months back, we addressed a consumer, I think, brought up the issue of needing a certificate that would be stamped with the year, because they're going to need by next April something that comes out in 2022. So my question is, what plans are going to be made so that those people who are going to need certificates for their taxes for 2022 will get them in a timely manner?
So Amy, good question. We've always had, we have 3 cycles of certificates of blindness. We have one, the biggest one is in July, of course, for December taxes. And then we have one between January and March. We have a huge printed as well, maybe not 24,000, but I think the plan is just to send out as 24,000 for the for those consumers who are 18 plus, and just keep sending those certificates to individuals, and because it's just so much easier than having to go and write a name and then go print it out, print 1, print 2, print 3. That is not very efficient. So we'll just again mass mail them again starting in December and we'll postmark them 2022 through March. And then we have another small one in, I think this in April, there's a couple of people who want some certificates as well. And then we go back to July when we send the mass mail.
So we're going to be sending 24,000 out 3 times a year?
Yep, because believe me, we get a lot of calls when we send one by one by one by one, and it really doesn't work. And we have some folks who have said they don't want it, and we've noted that in their case file, so they won't be getting it. But if you haven't said you don't need one, we'll be sending you one.
Okay. All right, if there's nothing else, update on a resolution on what the resolution is to the recent clerical error on addresses for the informational brochures sent out by MCB, where there was a mix-up in consumers being paired and mailings to different addresses. Has that now been resolved and all that?
Yes. Mary, I don't know if you have any more detail there, but there's nothing new there. I mean, we resolved it at the time, and we now have policies, procedures, and controls in place with the manner with which we handle our data.
Yeah, and so Joe, before any data comes out of the central registration, you have to fill out a request, and then that data is also seen by 1 or 2 people before it goes out. So that is going to be, we will be able to stave off any clerical errors or any breaches if such thing were to happen.
Okay, good. So I guess I put in a question, are all consumers requesting services agreeing with them? So what we see is last year during the pandemic, people that were registered were not getting, or with cases open or registered, weren't getting services because of the pandemic. Well, not all of them were getting them because they didn't want to. Your registrations are up. Are you starting to sense, or, you know, and this goes back to the 850, that, you know, you do have a concern that the vendors are going to have the staff and the time available to spend the money. That's a gating item. I understand that. Do you have any concern as you sit here today that you're going to be able to provide, you know, for this influx of pent up demand, that you're going to be able to provide these services this year, let alone spend the money?
I think we're very confident that we will be able to manage them case-wise and refer them to the vendors. We will continue to provide RT services and mobility services with our staff and our contract staff as we have done. But if someone wants, you know, if we have 25 people that want computer training and the vendors can only handle 10 or 15 of them, those others are going to have to be managed and by the vendors and be offered dates. So it's hard for us to say that. Can we handle them as far as referral goes? Yes. Can we handle them? Do we know if the vendors have capacity? They indicated to us that they had capacity, but that we don't know if one vendor is going to get 100 referrals and doesn't going to get 50. We don't know if they're going to be, you know, if a vendor is backed up, maybe they'll refer to another vendor, or we can refer them to another vendor that may be able to take them 3 weeks down the road instead of 10 weeks down the road. That's going to be a management issue that's going to probably have to happen if we see the vendors getting backed up. And it's hard to predict that until we see the capacity that the vendors have to manage what's going on.
How about your own, for the services that you provide internally? Do you think you'll see stress?
So the individuals that were open during the pandemic received virtual rehab teaching. So they got some basics and they received some equipment and they're doing something. So they need a brush up with an RT coming out on a regular for 1 or 2 visits, maybe, possibly, but we don't, you know, I think we're good. I mean, we're pretty much full staffed in all the areas we have. We're going to hire, you know, we're in the process of having some postings out there. And so we're going to be filling those that are vacant. But we'll see. It's hard to, I don't think there's going to be a huge number, but others may disagree. But it's just a steady flow all the time. And SR cases get opened in some cases 2-3 times a year, and others just once a year, and others don't come back to us until their vision changes 3 years down the road. So very hard to predict how, you know, we'll get the word out, and it'll basically is going to be these services, you know, additional independent living services, a lot of more intensive technology training. We have various vendors that can provide that either at their home or at a community center or at another place, a residential setting if they choose to stay overnight. So we have options there. It all depends on the capacity of the vendors. How many can they accommodate? You know, RT instructors, technology instructors are very hard to find, good ones and good knowledge. So it's going to be a difficult challenge if they're overwhelmed from the capacity, over the capacity that they have now. They're going to have to scramble and bring people in. And, you know, virtual is still available by all the vendors. So they may be able to have extra AT people doing things virtual. So it's sort of, this is a large amount of money and it's being put into play, and we'll see how it goes. I mean, last year we had, what was the grant, 300,000 or so. I mean, that went very smoothly, and everybody, the money was able to be was expended, but there was only 2 vendors involved. This year you have 5 vendors. You're covering, so hopefully we're going to have a lot more people, and we can work with the vendors and work with our staff. I mean, we can certainly continue to support when someone leaves there, support with any additional that they might need. But it's something new, but I think we have the capacity. Hopefully the vendors have the capacity and can find the appropriate personnel to accommodate the referrals coming their way.
Yeah, I mean, this is probably something that's going to evolve as we get through the fiscal year, I would guess. So,
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, the funding is in place, so we just need referrals, and we need the vendors to accept the referrals.
update on safety protocols for MCB employees going to consumers' homes. I guess that a lot has evolved since the last meeting in terms of vaccine mandates and all of that. Is there any update on your policies, processes, and procedures?
Yes, it's all according to the guidance put out by HHS and the Human Resources Division. Really, there's nothing new there, though, to tell you the truth. I mean, the big news is on the vaccine front, where all of the employees now are required to submit attestation of vaccination by October 17th. There are a couple of exemptions. There's a religious exemption, and there is a medical exemption. So that's really the main thing that we've been working through right now. The other stuff, we continue to get requests for like N95 masks. We've been told that that's not appropriate. That's not an appropriate agency purchase. So we've been providing regular masks. We'll continue to do that. We've been providing other PPE, and we'll continue to do that as well. All of the cleaning remains in place, and there have been some local changes. For example, Boston, now indoors, you have to wear the mask as opposed to, before you didn't. And so we've tried to adjust as best we can, keep our people updated as best we can. And we really work through it case by case. If people have questions, they bring it up and we try to address it.
All right. And as far as consumers go,
well, that's the intersection regarding the vaccination. Like, for example, somebody could say, okay, well, I want to apply for a religious exemption. Great, they get the religious exemption. However, if their essential job duties are interacting with the consumer face to face, the religious exemption, you still can't do the essential job duties. So unless we are then, as an agency, willing to quote unquote accommodate them, and that's all a process that's playing out right now. So, obviously I can't speak to really any particulars because we got to keep our consumer and staff confidentiality. But there is a process. We're taking them all case by case. We're taking it seriously, and hopefully it doesn't adversely impact our consumers or staff.
now, is it the case, how about where consumers, and I'm not, if you answered it, I apologize. I didn't process it, but if a consumer isn't vaccinated, is that well, I guess you can't ask, right?
Right. So many of our consumers are very forthcoming. If they offer up the information, our people can then make a judgment on that. And many of them have said, well, I'm vaccinated, so I'm fine with that. And the service can go through. But others have said, I'm uncomfortable with this. And so we try to problem solve and figure out if there's another way to be able to still provide the programs and services, either remotely, at a distance, telephonically. So we're trying our best. John, I don't think there's really more than a handful that have come up, though, where I don't think we've denied service at all. I mean, it's just a matter of moving things around.
Yeah, I mean, we've had clients meet with us and say, can we meet on the porch? Can we stay outside? And our staff, obviously, yes. Yeah. And we've been trying to be as flexible as possible, and others. But yeah, we haven't had anybody just outright, well, no, we haven't had anyone just outright say, I'm not going to meet with you guys.
Right.
We've been able to drop items off. We've been able to alter the location. Hasn't been a major issue.
I think it's safe to say that our services have continued to flow to the large majority, maybe even like 98 or 99% of everything really isn't inhibited. You know, it might be impacted. I mean, COVID is impacting everybody in all kinds of different ways. But I think our team has and the consumers have problem solved around it well to keep the services flowing.
Okay, thank you. Anything to report on the establishment of the for-profit business? Anything new? I know that
Yeah. So that's a good prospect here. So I met with the National Industries for the Blind, and they then sent us a one-page kind of, what would you call it, John? A working paper or like a concept paper?
Just sort of a preliminary,
So really what it comes down to Joe and to the members and the public is finding the right consumer. And what I mean by that, all of our consumers are right, of course, I love them all, but there's really a certain profile that we're looking for. It's got to be somebody who's tech savvy, somebody who's a great communicator, understands the dynamic of sales and marketing and how to be able to navigate some of these e-commerce websites. Not all of our consumers, matter of fact, only a small amount of our consumers have those skills. So then it's a matter of finding those people, then finding out if they're interested to pursue an entrepreneurial type of activity. I think we have some leads, but it's not a very large candidate pool there.
So how this would work it would be entrepreneurial where the consumer would kind of be in business for themselves?
correct.
So what we would do is we would set up an integrated work environment that's a venture capital, essentially a startup business where, let's just say for round numbers, there'd be 10 people in the company. Well, of the 10 people in the company, maybe 4 or 5 of them are people with disabilities. And of the 4 or 5 that are people with disabilities, maybe 2 of them are our consumers. So we would, MCB would bring VR dollars to bear to be able to provide like that seed money, that startup money for our consumers.
Would it be for the consumers or for the enterprise?
I think a little bit of both. A little bit of both. Now, the particular enterprise that we're looking at doesn't require bricks and mortar, which is kind of is different from what we've done in the past. Many of the things the small business enterprises that John or MCB or even other rehab agencies have set up in the past are very dependent upon, well, we got to get a lease and then we got to get an architect and we got to get we got to build something. This isn't that. This is mostly online and virtual.
What I mean by
startup
enterprise
costs are much lower.
What I meant by enterprise, David, is that you'll have an organization of some kind where it's going to be stocked with some people that are disabled, blind, not disabled. So you're going to have a business. That's what I refer to as enterprise. It can be virtual. I got that.
Yes.
And that, how then do they get business? How does the NIB play into this?
Yes. So we're looking at a couple of different things to kind of be starters there. One, to see if we can go and get some public contracts. We have a public use law, okay, which we used to use, MCB used to use previously for our Ferguson Industries for the Blind program.
I remember that well.
Yes. So we really haven't used it since then. So it would be, now the thing with that is we have to substantially change is, obviously, we want this to be competitive. We don't want to go back to that wage scale in any way. Number one. Number two.
Understood. I absolutely understood.
Number two, it's important. That's why I mentioned I'm using the round number as 10 people. 5 of them won't be people with disabilities because we very much want the environment to be an integrated environment and not exclusively people with disabilities, because we don't feel that's integrated then. We want it to mirror what we hope can take root in all of business, is that people with disabilities are represented.
So is it going to be up to MCB to go looking for the business, or does the NIB have some set asides?
So NIB has an existing model structure that they have with their fulfillment centers. They have blind made products. They have products that are not blind made. that are sold by Blind. So it's kind of leveraging their existing model and building it out a little bit more so that it is now not fully, because they're an ability one thing. So I don't want to say they're fully reliant, but they're heavily reliant on Department of Defense contracts and public types of contracts. We, to start this thing, want to use a little bit of that as a starter to kind of get it going and then fade that over time. So in other words, get the business up and running over the first couple of years using some of these contracts, then start to fade those contracts as you start getting more and more private work.
Yeah. So when, if you were to look at it, and you were going to launch a business, you're going to have to make, in addition to people, because you're going to have to pay them a wage as opposed to eat what you kill. And then someone's going to have to manage it. Someone's going to have to, chase the business. Can that be done with existing funding, or does that come out of the VR dollars? What do you get?
So, right. So that's a dialogue we have to have with RSA about how much we can capitalize, in other words, stand up this, whatever it is, a corporation or whatever it is, that business entity that we stand up, and then how much of it can we use to quote unquote continue. So really one of the things that we're looking into is how much can we shield their existing benefits for people that are utilizing benefits? How much can we, hold those harmless, if you will, so that they don't drop off the benefits cliff? That is novel. And that's one of the things that's one of the challenges, quite frankly, to solve for. Now, for some of our consumers, that might not be an issue, but we know for some of them it is, like with, like our Randolph Shepherd vendors, for example.
Yeah, now I understand that, but my question is, and I understand the benefits cliff, that could you fund the startup of this business with the reallotment funds?
Perhaps. We have to find that. That's part of what we have to find out. We're not yet at that stage. I think we first need to identify consumers, because we can work all this other stuff. If we don't have the consumers, it's not going to matter. So we really need to find the consumers first, and then use a mix of money. I think it's going to be some state money. It'll be some VR dollars. Maybe we even seek a grant.
Yeah, I mean, that, and just to refresh me, David, the reallotment funds that you're going to get, the 1.3 million, you have to spend them by when?
By September 30th of
next year.
22. So,
yep.
I mean, I'm just kind of wondering, and this is where the advisory stuff comes in, whether you want to set aside some of those reallotment dollars to fund the feasibility of getting into the business, because I understand you have to find employees, but you can't you don't want to hire people until you got business.
Well, we've done that reallotment project with PCG, and the study that they came back indicated that indeed this could be feasible.
Yeah, but this is now you get down to,
we're going to the next level.
It is going to the next level, which would mean developing a business plan, investing in some human infrastructure, which would not be these 10 employees. It's going to be who's the boss and who's getting the business. I mean, it's not going to be David and Mary and John doing this part-time, I don't think.
Not me.
Don't underestimate
not John. John,
bandwidth.
you've done that already.
Don't underestimate John's bandwidth. Just keep throwing things on his plate. He'll be fine.
So I mean, go ahead, please.
I'm joking.
No,
I'm joking.
I was just trying to figure out.
Capacity.
Yeah, in following this, I was just trying to figure out who's the owner of the enterprise.
Yeah, so there's different
That's a
structures.
great question.
For example, we're working with, I got to remember what I can and cannot say. So there is a nonprofit right now that we all probably know well that is investigating a manner with which to use one of these social impact bonds. And if that's the case, for while those bonds are active, technically the taxpayers are the owners, right? But once those bonds sunset, it would then go to the shareholders of that corporation or whatever that entity is. So that's one way to fund it. We're not looking at that way. We're looking at a private endeavor. So this would be a unique public-private partnership where we'd need to bring in, that's one of the things here is we need to bring in a lot of different parties. We need to bring in private parties, probably multiple private parties, state parties, federal parties, and bring it all together.
So why wouldn't, and I'm not sure where the nonprofits are. Isn't this something that a nonprofit should take on, like Work Inc. or the Carroll Center for the Blind, or, you know, somebody else to do this with funding support, as you suggest, as opposed to the commission trying to do this?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I think all of the stakeholders are going to be involved in some way, shape, or form. I think here's why. It comes down to the consumer. All of this is structures and everything else is moot until we get the right profile of consumer that wants to do it. If and when that happens, then that could be an option. Yes, we're not discounting that. There's a myriad of ways of structuring the deal. We just want to make sure we're supporting our consumers, which we've done in the past with other small business enterprises, like when Commissioner Lebrecht set the person up over in Arlington on a convenience store, and we work with the MBTA to be able to do that, or so
it would be good to continue this for the next discussion, for the next meeting. I mean, I know it's evolving, but go ahead, Susan.
No, it's Amy.
Hi.
My only question is, how are you going to recruit consumers and let them know of this possibility? I know some of them are on your VR caseloads, but are you going to make a public announcement about the availability of this so that people who perhaps are not on your VR caseloads, who might be interested in then becoming part of the VR system and therefore might declare their interest?
Yeah, that's a consideration. Oh, go ahead, John. Sorry.
I mean, we had talked about that, and we definitely know that our VR pool is obviously limited based on the number of cases that are open. Right. So we had talked about that once we get it solidified a little more, that we would hold focus groups, but immediately internally, this is like very preliminary talks going on right now. As a matter of fact, the NIB is going to present to VR counselors in November,
right,
to show the system they have and the concept, just to get them thinking about individuals and talking. But I think focus groups in different parts of the state, or virtual online focus groups talking about the project. But right now it's sort of an idea that's there, and it's not developed yet to the point where we could take it to the public at this point. So there's a lot of talking that's going to go on between now and the next several months to get this solidified.
Yeah, totally understand that. Totally understand that. But I think since David was saying that finding the consumers is the most important step to see whether this is viable, I would suggest that
let me just amend that. It's finding / persuading, because John and I both know there's consumers that could definitely do this,
right?
But they're already employed in good jobs, and do they really want to go out and try to do some entrepreneurial? It takes so not only do you have to have the capacity to do it and all the skills and everything else, not everybody's an entrepreneur.
No, I understand that. I'm just wanting to make sure that throughout this process, as preliminary as it is, that you are going beyond the caseloads that you know of in making this available as a potential to the blind community.
And I'd like to follow that up with, in the feasibility study that you did with PCG, was there any look at the regulations in RSA and what's allowable?
Nah.
If
No.
there was, it was
No.
only high level.
Very high
Yeah.
level.
Yeah, they
Because
didn't-
the
they-
concept was basically, would something like this be feasible? There's no, we're still developing this whole concept. It may be totally different 3 months down the road when we find out if their partner's interested and what the capacity is. So that the study did not go into that depth that we're talking about even here today.
Are there any NIB agencies that are doing what you've described?
The answer is
There are individuals.
yeah.
There are individuals doing it.
agencies.
Yes,
I mean, people who own their own business.
correct. And they're small and they're sole proprietors and.
But you're
We're thinking of
talking,
doing.
but what you're
larger
talking
scale.
about is an organization.
Oh yeah.
You're talking about an organization, so.
Well, that's one of the concepts in play, yes, but there could be others.
Joe, this is Kim, and I'm wondering if John mentioned that there's going to be a presentation at, I'm assuming it's NCSAB or CSABR conference in November.
No, it's here for RVR.
No, it's
Oh,
internal.
it's coming for your people.
It's
Okay.
just internal, yeah. This is like
Okay.
just to get them thinking or give them ideas about the type of people or the type of business process we're looking for. I mean, NIB doesn't even, they're working on it. I spent an hour and a half yesterday on the phone with them talking about different aspects. So they're developing the training now for that presentation.
Every third Thursday, we
presentation.
have an internal VR meeting, Kim. That's what
Right.
John was
Yeah.
referring to.
Okay.
Yeah.
So-
The good thing though is their systems were all built for blind people. So all of their platform, it's all accessible, it's all JAWS, you know what I mean? That's what gives us like the hope of a starting point here.
So MCB really is, I mean, this is pioneering investigative
Yeah.
stuff. I mean, nobody else is out there doing it. We can't say, well, tell us
No.
who else is doing this in
No.
other states.
No,
Okay.
not to what David has been talking about, not to what we're talking about here.
Mhm.
I jokingly talked with some of the administrators at RSA. I was like, give us the $100 million that you have left over and we'll start it. They were
So
like, "You're
Joe,
gonna
I
need to
think
talk
if
to the
you,
secretary.
yes, I think if we keep this on the agenda and just get an update next month, we can monitor how it's going.
Yeah, so
and-
I mean, this sounds like cutting edge, so.
Yeah, this is
You
like
know,
very,
so-
I mean, what we end up with in 6 months may be totally different than what we talked about today.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
Because we don't-
generally, here's what it is. It's generally leveraging the existing Ability One suite of products and services, but using an online platform with which to sell it by. That's essentially what the business is going to be about. And so they being NIB, they already have fulfillment center, the website, all of the products with all of the SKUs and all. And some of the products, by the way, are made by people who are blind and people with disabilities. So, I think what we're thinking is like some type of, think officemax.com, staples.com, like those types of things, and maybe even some additional stuff as well, because they have some additional product lines, like almost like a Granger. Like during the pandemic, for example, they saw a boon because they had so much supplies of sanitizer and gloves and like all those types of things that they make anyways, that they have machinery and they manufacture for that whole Ability One network.
yeah, and that is, of course, all done because of the Ability One set-asides and a non-integrated.
And so that's what they're actively
setting.
trying to get away from. They see that we want to be integrated and we want to pay market wages and all that. And that's one of the reasons they want to partner so much.
I think it would be good as a segue. I forgot to put this into the agenda, but at the RC meeting a month or so ago, John had talked about the successful closures on the VR side, and it'd be good which is in the midst of a pandemic and so forth, is pretty good news. And it'd be good for you to talk to the SAB about this, and and in that regard, as you're looking at new people at register that may have computer skills for this undertaking that you're talking about. So John, do you mind talking about that a little?
So we ended up closing, I believe it was 158 cases, which is 25%. This is as of June 30th of this year. And so this is 25% over the figures from last year as of June 30th. So just to show that even with the pandemic restrictions and people not going to work, we were still able to get people employed at some home opportunities that are going to stay home. Others were home opportunities now, but will require to go to the office when staff returns to the office. So there was a good variety. We got some jobs at the hospitals. We got a good variety of mix in the different types of positions that we had there. So it just goes to show that, you know, we kept working, we kept doing what we do, and our partners at the Carroll Center and Polis Center kept working and placing people, and it continued to work. Whereas other agencies sort of had these glitches in service and that sort of thing. And majority of them are showing that their placement numbers dropped. And most people would say, yeah, obviously, because the pandemic's going on, most places are closed. But I mean, we have a good economy here, either way, here in Massachusetts, and we were still able to pull that off. But it just, our staff just kept going. Our employment people kept knocking on doors. We developed new relationships. We still kept our internship going last year. We had it going this year, back up to near to levels that we had before the pandemic hit. We kept all of our presentations, our conferences, and everything going. And I think other agencies didn't keep that going and lost a lot of contact with the employers. You know, we started the outreach campaign. You know, the advertising on the radio. I mean, we'll see fruits from that coming down the road. Maybe not today, maybe not, but down the road we keep going. This will pay off. It's you know, outreach campaigns take a while to penetrate into the public and get into the public mind. But you know, there's a lot of people that are aware now what MCB does or where they should go if they have a problem with their vision than they had before they saw the ads on television or heard them on radio or saw them in print and social media. So that's an impact that might work out down the road to get more folks registered, and in turn resulting in more placements. So there's a lot of different factors. So to say that we did exceed, that number is there, and we did place consumers that graduated. We placed consumers that had lost jobs because of vision loss and had returned to other jobs or got training for other ones. There's a substantial mix of staff there, and I think it's just because we just kept going and didn't stop. Whereas if we had stopped and tried to reconfigure things, and I mean, we just moved right over from in person to virtual in a matter of a couple, 2-3 weeks, and just by doing what we did and keeping up the VR staff going. You know, I work closely with that group and make sure that and talk to them about what's going on. I review cases that are there near the time to be closed to make sure that those are well established and can be closed appropriately. So there's I think we just kept doing our job, and I think it shows that our staff did the job, and we got the right number, and it's a good thing to have. But for the future, you know, we'll see if these individuals come in. If we find these individuals, you know, if we find 2 or 3, this may be a collaboration. If it's an online type process, maybe we collaborate with New England as we move further down the road. We don't know. Maybe we collaborate with other VR agencies in other parts of the country. But you know, so we'll start now, and we'll go on and go from there. But it looks, I haven't checked the numbers for the first quarter, but I saw a bunch of at least like 8 placements come through at the end of September. We'll have that data very soon. So it looked like there was good activity in July and good activity in August. So I think we've continued The United Healthcare Group, we met with them a couple of weeks ago through a contact through the National Employment Team. Joe and I and Carol met with them. They wanted us to send, actually MRC was also involved with us in this meeting. And we've sent 6 referrals. They've hired 1, and they've brought, I think, 3 back for second interviews. And those are permanent work at home positions to be like a benefits, I think they call it a benefits guide or benefits something, where you sort of get assigned to a caseload and you check with those folks and periodically and make sure that they've gotten their prescriptions renewed, and that sort of thing. Some sort of like medical navigator, I think it's called. So,
John, how do you deal with the benefits cliff for all these folks? Which is the same challenge?
it's a challenge, and with the folks that we refer to our Employment Now initiative, we have them vetted, and we talk to them about this. And in some cases, they meet with benefits counseling, but they definitely have to be committed to working full time. And most of them have gone through without any problem. And then when actually one individual actually did get placed, and then all of a sudden realized that what we've been talking about was going to be reality. And because of medical conditions, they decided that they really needed to stay on the with the benefits that they had. But pretty much we've weeded those out, and we do talk to individuals. Fortunately, someone who's lost their vision hasn't been on SSI or DI for a long time, and those people are much easier to come off that. So we'll talk about the ROI that we just did. I'm doing this again from memory, but the report is ready, and we can certainly share it with you before the next meeting. I think the amount of money that they expect the folks that we place through the years that they looked at, those folks are gonna earn like $500 and some odd million. We're returning for every dollar we spend, we're getting back $11 in taxes to the communities, to the government, all those sort of things. So it's very positive, and we think we'll keep building on to what we've been doing. So we'll share that Roy report with you before the next meeting.
That'll be great. Kim, Amy, Susan?
Yes, thanks, Joe. That's great to hear, John. And I'm just sort of curious. I mean, it sounds like you're anticipating increases in program income down the line, but what's your benefits counseling capacity like?
Well, we use MRC's benefits counselors because they have the grant, and we're able to refer our folks to them. We also are able to use Work Without Limits benefits counseling out in Western part or anywhere actually, but pretty much most of our folks have been using the MRC counselors. They seem to be very responsive and quick for us.
Great.
So.
Okay. And if there's nothing else on that topic, move on to description of measurable outcomes from the What's Your Vision campaign.
Yes, Miss Kathy, you out there? I know Carla has some very detailed analytics from Marketing Doctor, which is the vendor we've been working with. Carla.
Oh, hey guys, how are you?
Good.
Good. Joe, I believe right after your last meeting, I sent over our digital reports from August.
Yes.
And then also this morning, we have a full report. So that's digital and traditional media for July. And shortly we should have the one for August. I think I mentioned this at the last meeting, but the digital placements wrapped up on the 30th. That was the end of their rotation of September. And our traditional placements, including billboards, radio, television, print advertisements, those will run through October for National Disability Employment Awareness Month. So we should have the full report from the campaign by the end of November, early December, probably, once we get those traditional media analytics that we can add to the digital.
Okay. Is there a way that you can, so John referred to some of the success on closures back to What's Your Vision? and maybe making employers aware of what MCB does. Maybe not. It has something to do with registrations. Is there a way of quantifying that so that there is hard data to really support the spending?
Well, what we can look at, and we've been looking at those numbers and trying to make that correlation. I think it is due to a number of factors, like you mentioned, post-COVID, along with the campaign and another of other outreach channels that we've tried to optimize in the past year and a half, along with our virtual events that have been ongoing. So I think we can definitely, make those correlations, and we can measure what we can. Traditional media, like is a little bit harder to get exact metrics on, especially with a campaign like this, where our call to action really is our 1-800 number and our general website. But if you look at the digital analytics in the executive summary from July in that full digital report, I think it's on the last page, you will see that our website traffic has increased significantly with a significant number of new users to our website. So we definitely attribute that to the campaign, and we can see that a lot of those website visitors came from our digital ad placements. Several of those came, it depends on the month as to what placements were optimized, but 1 month Facebook was our biggest driver. 1 month LinkedIn was our biggest driver. 1 month it was YouTube. But you're able to see that in the digital report.
Carla and I have talked about a follow-up survey or, try to get a sense of it. I mean, I definitely think it's increased the visibility of the organization.
Yeah.
How much that translates into more calls, more emails, more work, more,
We did submit a IT request, and we asked them to pull it for us at the end of the year as to the volume of calls to our 1-800 number. Also, we'll measure the inbox for MCB info. Again, those are new channels for us. We've never had our direct email mcbinfo@mass.gov for consumers. So, hard to tell if it's because all of our staff are also pushing that as a point of contact, or if it's because of our ad campaign. But I think we can definitely share those numbers. And then, like the commissioner mentioned, and I've talked to Mary about this and the CR team too, we're going to start in that registration process asking people where they hear about MCB. So we'll gather a little bit of that data, right at the beginning of their relationship with us. And then after that, after October, we are going to send out kind of a campaign wrap-up email, and it will include a soft survey about if you saw the campaign and where you saw it or where you heard it.
Is this something Marketing Doctor can help you with?
No, that wasn't a part of their scope.
But is that something they do?
They likely do that, but they really served as our media buyers. That was our relationship with this project.
Okay. Well, it'd be good if you could do what you suggest and report back the next time so we can, continue to look at it.
Joe, one of the things that's interesting emerging out of the data, looking at the July data, is that your biggest user appears to be employers.
Mhm.
Right.
By far.
Right.
And so while you might collect data from registrants of where they heard about MCB, I wonder if it relates more to what John's work is and business relations and how many employers you gain. Are you looking at that at all? Because that's the biggest audience across almost all of your types of media, it looks like.
Yeah, that's a good point, Susan. And we have been talking to John and Joe and Carol about their employer relationships. Also, like in the job fair, I think just maybe putting some metrics around their relationship with us and how they heard about us, or that's a good point. Could definitely do something like that.
Yeah, because it was great to see that data. I know it might, I wonder if there's a way to summarize it so that Amy and Kim, I'm not sure that it's it's going to be easy for you to see the metrics, but I think the performance by audience for pretty much every type of service was the employers were the biggest ones, and the favorite ads seemed to be Colleen Moran at Spalding, and I mean, employers seem to be gobbling it up. So in some way, if there is there some kind of summary of this data available that is less visual?
Yeah, so Susan, that data that you just mentioned about the employers and Colleen too is really attributed to the digital placements. So the traditional placements probably had a wider reach with other target audiences. And because we had several target audiences, so employers being one, caregivers being another, eye care providers being another, and then consumers being another. I just want to make sure that when we do share that full report at the end of November or the beginning of December, that we just keep that in mind as well. But yes, we can share that at the end of November and the beginning of December and make sure that it's accessible.
This is
This
Kim,
is
and I just
Amy.
wanted to say that I think that the data from what I've been able to glean thus far is impressive. And I think that obviously it's no surprise to you or John or anybody on the employment team that, I mean, the timing is really good for this whole campaign because of the economy and the fact that so many businesses and organizations and everyone out there is clamoring for employees. So if any time was a good time to be working in placement, it seems like now is that time, and this data supports that really strongly. So good
Yeah.
luck to those who do this work, as
Well, we
you know,
look forward to.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
this is Amy. I would also say, I think as you're taking a dive into who is responding to this as much as you can isolate it, I think it would be good to know whether it's employers with whom we already have a relationship and how many are new. Because I think that's important. Sometimes in my experience, I've seen that sometimes when there's publicity, people with whom we already have a relationship, tend to look because they have an increased interest. So I don't know whether whether the matrix allows for that, but it would be really good, I think, to find out whether this is attracting new potential employers.
yeah, I think that's definitely a good point, Amy. And I think you and Susan are onto something as far as tracking our employer relationships and really trying to determine, what step they are at in the process and in their relationship with us.
Good. So any new business by the other SAB? Thank you very much, Carl.
Oh, one more,
And
can I
any-
just put a plug in, Joe, for the campaign? If you're watching,
Absolutely.
if you're watching game 2 tonight at 7:00, the Red Sox and the Rays, we are going to have some placements featured in several markets there. So yeah,
And
keep an eye out.
our next Friday, we're having White Cane Day.
Oh, yes. And next Friday at noon on the 15th, we are having a virtual White Cane Awareness Day celebration led by our orientation and mobility team. Should be a really great event. You'll get to meet them, hear from the new O&M director, and then hear from several individuals across the state who use white canes to travel to work, to travel within their communities. And you'll also hear from our low vision support groups. It should be
And
fun.
we won an award for this.
And we won an award for a graphic novel as well. You'll hear more about that when the press release is out, but that's also very good news.
All right. Good. Hopefully we don't see the spot in the middle of a Red Sox pitching change in the 3rd inning, but that's neither here nor there. Any new business by the SAB?
No, good. I'm good.
All right, so time for the public. And I see Debbie with her hand raised.
Hi, I just had a question maybe for Mary about the mailings and for the blind certificates, because I didn't quite understand why you guys would spend money on 3 mailings, separate individual ones, when it seems to make more sense to do one and just send either 3 certificates or something, just because, I mean, I know I had to bother you for 2 already. So I just kind of didn't understand that.
So because the certificates are actually date driven. So we do 7/1 for ending for December, and then there's another one that we have to do in January. And that one ends on 6/30, and so we have to do another one for 7/1. So it really is date driven. At the same time,
And that's not our regulation, by the way. That's the assessor's regulation.
and so we are trying to find ways to work with the assessor's offices so that individuals can opt in to just have their information sent to the towns and municipals, and that's going to cut the amount of COBs we send. But Debbie, I tell you, every single time we decide to scale back on the COBs, we get more calls, and why did I not get my COBs? So it's balancing getting the COBs out and also making the consumer feel like that they're heard and that they are getting the services they need.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, so let's see what else I see with raised hands. I guess everybody's questions must have been answered. I've got 508, 564, 4613. You're muted.
Sorry about that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Hey,
For the
Jane,
record, Mike-
hi.
Excuse me?
Oh, sorry, Jane. I recognized it was you and I was saying hello. I was happy to hear from you.
Oh, hello. For the record, I am Jane Perry, Region 5, Falmouth, Cape Cod. I would like to say that I enjoyed the town meeting yesterday. It was very informative. However, transportation is a statewide issue. It should be a priority. And I would like to see a focus group or a committee started to look at all transportation, not only the MBTA. Granted, it is the largest regional transit authority in the state, but we talked about seamless transportation card or something like that at previous meetings. That was not addressed. And I think it's time to address that, to start a committee and work with the Mass Association for Regional Transit Authority. They meet every month on the second Thursday at the Transportation Building at the Park Plaza. And I know after the long holiday, I have a meeting with Mr. Cahere down here in Falmouth. On the Cape, we have 6 different transportation agencies within one region. And in order to get and obtain your dignity and your pride and your self-esteem as a person who is visually impaired, blind or deafblind, I believe that transportation is the #1 issue. You know, we are not the Boston Commission for the Blind. We are the Massachusetts Commission for the Blind. And I really, really hope that we can start looking at this issue as a statewide issue. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm sure the commissioner will do that.
Yes, Jane, thank you.
Okay, if there are no other questions, I don't know, we might even get an early break for the weekend. I don't know if anybody has anything else they would like to add.
Joe, can you just reiterate before we adjourn the date of our next meeting? Because I don't see it on my calendar.
All right, and I think because of schedules, the December one is still up in the air, but just give me 1 second, Kim.
Thanks.
It is the first, I believe it's the first Friday in November.
Second Friday.
Second Friday in November, which is I have it as the 12th.
12th, yes, okay.
And I think we have to,
No, that's not right. Well, that is right, 12.
so I have it as the 12th, and I think that there was, we went back to Regina based upon some schedules on December. I'm not sure we ever heard back.
Final,
David,
okay.
when will Regina be back from vacation?
I believe Tuesday.
All right, so we'll reach back out to her and try to nail down December.
Yeah, because I don't have it finalized yet on the MCB calendar.
Okay, well, if that's it, everybody, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Have a great weekend.
Have a great long weekend.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Take care.